The playoffs are heating up, and you can still play along on Underdog Fantasy. Whether it's their pick'em game, where you pick higher or lower on 2 to 5 of your favorite players' stats, or their fan-favorite draft games, there's plenty of fun to be had, and maybe you'll win some money when you do. Head over to Underdog Fantasy's app or website to check it out now, where they match your first-time deposit up to $100.
Hello, welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. We are editors over at Mavs Moneyball. We are joining you on Thursday, February 8th, trade deadline day at 9:20 p.m. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm actually really good. This is this series of early games and getting to bed on time has resulted in just me feeling good, and you know we're gonna be here. So, for full disclosure of everyone, you know, I know a lot of people are asking me, Kirk, why didn't you and Josh go live during the day right after trade deadline? Well, the main reason is we have jobs, and these are not our jobs. This is our lightly compensated hobby, which we do for fun. So we're going to get to the trades because we know lots of people probably want to talk about those trades. But first, we do think it's you know in everybody's interests. Since we always recap the game, we're going to talk about the Mavs Knicks game a little bit, and then we will lead into that trade discussion. So the Dallas Mavericks just defeated the New York Knicks 122-108 in a game that felt a little like a trap game, but not really because the Knicks are super duper hurt. White Dante, as Bomani Jones calls him, lit up the Mavericks, but he's been lighting up everybody for several weeks now. But it didn't really matter because Luka Doncic had 39 points, 11 assists, 4 steals, a block. Maxi Kleber turned back the clock to have 4 blocks on the Knicks. Derrick Jones Jr. probably played one of his more complete games in several weeks. It was a nice win that the TNT announcers, if you had the box score covered up, the TNT announcers did a really, really good job of trying to make it seem like a very big game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they kind of knew the crappy hand they were dealt when they saw the injury report.
It was a fun game.
Yeah, it was. They're professionals. They had to sell that. That's part of their job. But yeah, it was. I mean, this was a game. The Knicks were almost too hurt, like for even the worst Mavs tendencies to really make a difference. I mean, in the second half, Hartenstein, their center, didn't play because of an Achilles injury. It didn't seem like a serious one, just like it looked like a maybe hopefully mild. Didn't look like he tore it or anything, but they're just taking precaution. They had 2 guys available on the bench for the entire second half. Mm-hmm. So they didn't have, much to go with. I mean, they played, their starting lineup, everyone in their starting lineup played at least 39 minutes or more, 39, 43, 45, 41.
That's Thibs though for you.
Yeah, I know. But it was exasperated with what their roster was going through. So,
for sure.
You could tell toward the end that team was exhausted. They had 14 turnovers. So the Mavs just had to
outlast.
Outlast. I think the first thing that jumps out to me, there are some good things we can talk about, but the first thing is Luka played 40 minutes again.
I think he wants to at this point.
Maybe he does, but he has now played 40 minutes or more in 6 out of the last 7 games, and actually 7 out of the last 9 games. He's been 40 minutes or more. And that's, if that's what he wants to do, that's fine. If the coaching staff, and I get people telling me like, well, with Kyrie back, it's not, the workload's not the same. He's still playing for it, but like, that's fine. Why that makes a difference. Yeah, that makes a difference. But like 40 minutes in an NBA game is still 40. Like they gotta find a way to get him some games where he's just not playing 40 minutes. I don't know what they got to do. Maybe they do have to sit him. Like I know everyone hates the sitting of stars, but I'm just saying if he averages 40 minutes in the month of February, which he's doing right now. He averaged 38.8 in the month of January. I don't care how good a shape he is. I don't care how good the workload is. That's going to catch up to you. Oh, and he averaged 39 minutes a game in December. So like
I'm pretty sure he's leading the league.
Yes, he's leading the league in minutes. It's really commendable, and I think it's awesome because I think he took last season. It's obvious he took last season personally.
Yeah.
In terms of how it ended and the embarrassment of missing not only the playoffs but missing the play-in. And I think the games that he missed, I'm sure he was frustrated seeing how many games he missed and still feeling hurt and worn down by the end of the year.
Sure.
So he's obviously taken his physical conditioning more seriously, because if he was in the shape that he was in last season and he was having this minutes load, I don't know if he would be make it to All-Star break. So, it's not that I'm trying to say like the sky is falling or Luka's going to get hurt or something's bad, but like they got to figure out a way to find some balance there and play just a little bit less minutes, because that's the main thing. Like, because they try, and you know what, Kid tried the fourth quarter, they were up 20 and it got down to 12 in like 2 minutes, and Kid actually looked kind of pissed off and called a timeout and had to put Luka back in the game. So it's not one of those things where Kid just has him on the floor and you're like, take him out. The way the team's playing, it's hard to find him sometime off the floor. So
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I liked Josh Green's game tonight. Yep. Gave the Mavericks that just the extra I'm going to run really damn hard is fantastic. And I'm really enjoying watching, him lead breaks and push off the break. He had a pair of moves in the first half, like a rim rocking dunk after like 4 back-to-back turnovers between the two teams. That was pretty fantastic. And then later he had a right-handed layup from the same spot on the floor that was really like he did a Euro step that led to that layup with the scoop over the top. And we're kind of hard on Josh because his contributions sometimes seem to wax and wane despite the minutes that he gets. And I don't know. I liked his defense tonight. Something else we've been critical of. So it was good to see him.
Yeah, no turnovers.
Yeah, which is a big deal. The vibe of the team felt a little different, obviously, because there's a trade, and we'll get to why, and we'll talk about that once we talk about the trades a little more. But just pretty interesting to me, just in a nutshell, that they were able to keep Josh Green, because I think his go element that he brings is pretty valuable to this team, which is there's a lot of like, I don't want to say like plotting guys. That's not right, but nobody else plays at that speed.
Stationary might be a better word for those guys. Not play. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely right. And kind of playing off that, he played really well and he had 6 rebounds, which was also nice. A steal and a block. Like, it's always nice when he fills up the stat sheet, because there just feels like nights where he just it's not there. So he's been pretty consistent with that. So I agree. I liked his game. Kind of on the same token, Derek Jones Jr. also kind of came back in a big way with 18 points, 7 free throw attempts, which tied for the team lead. And it's like, how many times has one of the Mavericks leader in free throw attempts not been Kyrie or Luka when both of those guys have been playing, the last year and a half, the last half year or whatever it's been, almost a year. It's been a year, actually. So for the last year. So I thought his game was really nice. I thought, he still only made 1 3 and only took 3. But his game tonight was really emblematic of why, when we're talking about pieces that fit around Luka, and when people bring up perimeter players that have like, oh, this guy's shooting 33% or 34%, that's not a good fit with Luka. And it's like, I get that. But if a guy has a little something off the bounce, if he can do a little something attacking a closeout, driving, going towards the bucket, going towards the rim, that can counteract a lot of the shooting deficiencies that can pop up from a player that's not shooting as well that you think that you need next to Luka. Like, it's not, I think the way the NBA is trending and how defenses are playing these teams, you need more than spot up shooting. We've been saying that since like 2019. You need more than guys that just can catch and shoot. And I think you're kind of seeing it with Derek Jones. You're seeing it with Josh Green. You're seeing it with Dante Exum. Just how important, just not necessarily running a pick and roll or creating something out of nothing. It's just when the ball is swung to them and there's an aggressive closeout, can you do something besides just hot potato the ball around? And you saw that tonight with Jones. I thought he was really good first step, aggressive, catching defenders off balance that are closing out hard, putting them on their heels, and just going toward the basket really strong and aggressively. He had 3 assists, 7 free throw attempts. Like, for a non-Luka, non-Kyrie player to get 7 free throw attempts on this Mavs team, that means things are like really, really humming, and they look really good when those guys are able to move with the ball in their hands.
So if I had one criticism of the game, it's actually sort of with the game plan, is when the Knicks really started sending hard doubles at Luka, you got to move Kyrie out of the corner every now and again. Kyrie being in the far corner drives me fucking crazy because you're either asking Luka to get the ball to him on a crazy pass or you're hoping the ball gets there out of reversal. And it just didn't a lot of the times. Bring Kyrie up. Let him run at the nail in the middle of the floor every now and again. They did use Luka and Kyrie on a lot of screens, which I thought was really fun. They've not done that in a while. So that's, let's just balance the criticism with something interesting.
Oh, yeah, it was very good.
But I just, if you have 2 unbelievable ball handlers, let's use 2 unbelievable ball handlers. It's a concept.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
The Luka Kyrie screening thing was really, I feel like Kyrie set more screens for Luka tonight in the third quarter than he has in like the last 2 weeks of games worth if they've played together. So I think I might, we don't have to, we've got a lot to talk about with trades and stuff, so I don't want to carry on this game too much, but that's something I might look into like when we're done talking.
I would love that.
Yeah, because that was fun to watch. Yeah.
Okay, so before we head on to the trade talk, for those of you who are here in the stream, if you could do Josh and I a favor, head down and hit the like button while you're down there. Consider subscribing. We do a fair number of shows. We will also, as I'm kind of getting back into the swing of things now that my child is sleeping more, going to be doing more and more of these live shows after games. We've done one every night this week. In the previous 2 games, we're going to do one tonight as well. And what I mean by the secondary live show is it's a show where you can come and talk basketball just like Josh and I are doing here. It's a very easy link. You click through it. You can use it on your phone. You can use it on your computer if you want to. You can show your video if you like. If you don't want to, it can be audio only too. I like talking with Mavs fans. I want to hear what your takes are. I want to hear what your thoughts are. We will talk tonight, probably for as long as folks want to go, and it'll be good because you know what? I think if you're really excited about these trades, I think you should celebrate that. If you're really kind of fearful about elements of what it means for the Mavericks' future, we should talk about that too. If you're listening on an audio-only stream, do me a favor, just leave us a review. Those are very important for us. We're still working out some small kinks with the Apple feed, but we'll figure that out. And anybody else that's listening or watching the video at a later date, please go ahead and leave us a comment that's not part of the live chat. Okay, now for those listening in the audio version, I'm going to drop some ads in here. If you could listen to those as well, Josh and I will be right back.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Okay, so if you want to hear my trade deadline story, I'm working this morning, busy day at the old office. And I throw together, just because I wanted to have something where at Mavs Moneyball for people to comment, I put together about a 250-word post, and I just note that I don't think any trades are going to happen for the Mavericks, or if they do, it's going to be something small and kind of inconsequential. I just didn't see the juice. I didn't see – we've talked about that in here for days. And as I press publish, the Daniel Gafford news passes through the wires. And the way that was phrased by Adrian Wojnarowski was particularly interesting because for those of you who are like kind of catching up on this a day later, we didn't really know what the Mavericks gave up in terms of draft compensation for most of the day. Is that right, Josh? Is that kind of the timeline?
Yeah, I don't think we really knew. The only thing we knew was that they were trying to route draft compensation from another team to Washington. Like, it wasn't going to come from the Mavericks draft capital. Like, they were trying to find picks from someone else to then send to Washington. And then I don't think we knew. I think Stein or Tim McMahon, one of them, were one of the first ones to show the details. But the Mavericks kind of sent a press release because it was actually a separate transaction. They sent a press release about 2:00 Dallas time, which I guess was right after the trade deadline, that said they swapped their first rounders in 2028 with OKC to get a 2024 pick from the Thunder, and then that's when we knew. So, and the trade was first reported like earlier this morning, so it was like 4 or 5 hours before we really knew the full details of that trade.
So let's sort of talk about the player first. Our Gracie Villiard over at Mavs Moneyball, who is a Virginia resident, so I think she catches some Wizards games, wrote sort of a what to expect from Daniel Gafford piece. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm super familiar with Daniel Gafford. The stat that I really enjoyed was that he is 8th in the league in dunks, while Derek Lively is 7th. And my broad-based conclusions from this is that the Mavericks now have a center that if he and Derek Lively are healthy, there is no reason the Dallas Mavericks shouldn't play without a true center unless it's a tactical decision for all 48 minutes of basketball.
Correct. That's one of the biggest advantage of doing this trade. Probably the reason why they did it. I mean, how long have we been talking about backup center? I mean, we've been talking about backup center since Dirk, since the mid 2000s. Like, you think about when they had Eric Dampier and Ghana Diop, like, who was the starter, who was the backup? When they had Tyson Chandler, they needed a backup center, and with Brendan Haywood disappointing at times. I feel like it's always been a thing. Like, not only have the Mavericks always needed a center, they've also always needed a backup center.
Sure.
So Gafford's interesting. Yes, always. So what's interesting is Gafford, I think, was a lot of Mavs fans, they wanted him to be like their full before.
How long has Daniel Gafford been a Mavs fan target?
Probably like 3 years now. And so pre-Lively, I think that was a lot of people that wanted to bring him in as like a buy low kind of starting option. So yeah, he's really fun in the sense that he's athletic as hell. Mm-hmm. He dunks and he blocks shots like crazy. I think he's averaging 2.2 blocks per game, career high. He's scoring 1.43 points per possession as the roll man in the pick and roll.
He might be one of the most elite. Like, in terms of advanced data, I thought I saw that he might be the most elite finisher in the league.
He's up there. I mean, he's shooting 69% from the floor. He's shooting 73% on rim runs, which is very, very good. Like you said, he's top 10 in dunks. He makes sense as a backup. As a starter, I was never too high on the Mavericks acquiring him because he still has some weaknesses, which it's easier to get around that when he's coming off the bench, which presumably he is. He's not. His blocks are good, but his defensive numbers are not great. Again, he's been playing in Washington for most of his career, so he's never going to have really good impact defensive stats. But one of the criticisms of, he a little bit of a block chaser instead of a true maybe rim protector, like the block number might be a little inflated in terms of his actual defensive impact. Okay. But still, the Mavericks will take guys that will block they need some guys that can block shots and make defensive plays, period, even if you give up a little bit when you don't get the block. And then another thing is he's actually not a great rebounder. He's never averaged more than 8 a game. He's averaging 8 right now in 26 and a half minutes.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I know. It's better. Yeah. Here's the thing. Everything about him is better than what the Mavericks were getting from their backups, big men positions before today. But the thing that, he's just not a start. I just don't think he's a starter on a winning team, which, hey, guess what? You have Derek Lively, so he doesn't need to be the starter on your team. So the move makes so much sense now that the Mavericks have felt like they found their center of the future in Lively. And it takes away a lot of the risk involved. Although, we can talk about the compensation, but in terms of the player, it's a really clean fit for the Mavericks.
Yeah, and he's young.
Yes,
he's young.
Cost controlled. He's on. He's getting about $13 million next season, $14 million the season after that, which is only going to look better as the salary cap rises, or even if it stays static. It's a good deal right now, so that's also important.
So, and they moved. Who went to Washington?
Rashawn Holmes, and I think just the rerouted draft pick.
Yeah, the rerouted draft. Well, the rerouted draft pick, which is I want to say it's the worst. It doesn't really matter, but it's a 2024 pick from Oklahoma City. How the Mavericks acquired that pick is they are swapping draft picks in 2028. Hold on to that because I want to talk about that in aggregate later on.
Yeah.
The move by itself, I enjoy the move.
Yeah.
I enjoy the move. I think it's the kind of move that we thought they needed to make, but didn't know if they had the means. I do sort of I feel a little bit bad for Rashawn Holmes because he came to the Mavericks and he basically moved off a trade kicker.
Yeah, he waived his trade kicker. Yeah.
Which meant I think he was fed one thing and something else happened.
I mean, weren't there reports that they're like the Mavericks feel like they can try Rashawn Holmes if they can't make a trade for a center, like after that deal was done or something like that.
Yeah, that was not. That leaves a funky taste in my mouth is all I'll say. I don't like that when that happens to players because you never know when stuff like that gets around. Okay, so then I ended up going to the gym. So I'm sitting on that, and I didn't even, we didn't find out about the draft stuff till later in the day, which was fine. I go to the gym. I come out of the gym to 30 tweets tagging me with "he's gone." It was like that similar to the scene in the fifth Harry Potter movie where the guy realizes that Voldemort's back, and it's like all these people going, "He's gone," and it's just it's Grant Williams was traded along with Seth. Was there anybody else?
Nope, just those two.
A 2027 first round pick, top 2 protected, as we learned. More on that in a little while. For PJ Washington, who is in the first year of a 4-year deal that he signed with the Hornets in the offseason. Is that right?
Yep, making about on average 16 a year, I think.
Yeah, and he was
I can get the numbers.
He was your guy that you just sort of were in the middle of, it was 7 days into free agency. And you're like, why hasn't anybody signed this guy yet? And he became the dude that Mavs fans just sort of were like, gosh, what if we could get PJ? What if we could get PJ? And it was just sort of a recurring theme.
I feel bad.
And now here we are several months later with PJ Washington. Talk to me about his numbers. Talk to me about his fit. Jack, I wonder if Jack's going to join us. Jack Monin, at least I hope I don't know how to say Jack's last name, even though he's worked for me for 2 years, is hopefully maybe going to be joining the show to talk about, he wrote a nice piece that's up on Mavs Moneyball as well, kind of briefly describing what he thinks the impact is going to be. But why don't you kind of walk us through, because he's been kind of one of your guys for a little while.
Yeah, I just like his versatility at the 4. He's 6'7", 7'2" wingspan. He's really athletic. Kind of gets lost in Charlotte a little bit, and especially with some of the other athletes he's played with in Charlotte. That Hornets team has actually had a lot of really awesome
good
dunkers,
athletes. Yeah.
Over the last 3 or 4 years. But he's up there. He's got a great vertical. He's a great dunker. Which I feel like that's another thing I've been asking the Mavericks to do since they drafted Luka is give him explosive, athletic players that can do harm to the rim. Washington can certainly do that. He can play the 4 in the Charlotte. He's been kind of playing 4, small ball 5. They occasionally experimented with him at the 3, but his natural position is the 4. You don't want him playing 5 unless it's tactical, trying to gimmick something up. That's not his final position, because he is 6'7", he is 7'2", so it's good size for power forward in today's NBA. But he also is kind of twiggish, slender. He's not the strongest guy in the world, which is okay. In the you don't need your fours to be Drew Goodens anymore.
He's got crazy wingspan, right?
Yeah, he's 7'2" wingspan. So
that's not
that's
like
really good.
A plus wingspan, as we all know, like the thing to go back to that where wingspan is always concerned is that the Mavericks were not interested in Desmond Bane because of his negative wingspan, meaning his wingspan was shorter than his height. And so to have most NBA athletes have a plus wingspan, bigger than their height. So if you're 6'7", then your arms is out or longer than 6'7".
Yeah.
His wingspan being
7'2",
7 inches more is quite a lot.
Yes, it's pretty good. He's kind of his game. When you describe his game, it sounds better than and then you go look up the stats and you're kind of like, well, why aren't his stats better? Because he's kind of really well-rounded. Like he has 3-level scoring ability in terms of he is comfortable shooting threes. He's comfortable in the mid-range and he's fairly comfortable at the rim. Like he's pretty good. He's pretty comfortable with the floater. He's got a good floater. And he's got a good mid-range. He's got a good turnaround in the small post where if someone switches and attacks him with a smaller defender, he's fairly comfortable doing that. And he's good in pick and pop. He's good in pick and roll. The last 2 seasons, Charlotte's actually experimented with him running some pick and rolls. I looked some stats up earlier today. He ran 71 possessions last season as the pick and roll ball handler. They didn't end well, but they tried it. So that's something. When he had 32, he's had 32 this season. So that's actually kind of a lot for a guy like him. But he's comfortable as a roll man. He was pretty good as a roll man last season. All of his numbers are down this season, but I think that's just because Charlotte is bad and weird. And
sure, they just have weird games. I mean, Melo's been hurt. Yeah,
and they haven't really committed to him. They've been bringing him off the bench. But he's got a good jump shot. It looks good. And then you look at the last 3 years, he's at 32 this year, 34 the year before, 36 the year before that. Career 35.9% 3-point shooter. And yeah, some of that is definitely looks like he's playing on a bad team. He doesn't have great point guard play. But he did play for Lonzo Ball for a couple of years, even though Lonzo's been hurt. So it's not like he hasn't played next to total scrubs at point guard. Lonzo's a pretty good passer when he's healthy. And his spot up shooting and his catch and shoot 3-point shooting is not great. It's in the low 30s the last couple of years. And you're just kind of why? Because you watch him and his film and his jumper looks great. I mean, he 11 days ago scored 43 points against the Jazz and made 7 3-pointers.
That was when we were all kind of collectively well, we're not getting that guy.
Yeah. So it's there. This is a guy that the tools are there to be a really high level NBA starter. It just never happened in Charlotte. And the risk, where the Mavs are, it makes perfect sense because they don't have necessarily the ammo to go get a bona fide guy. Like we said, when they traded for Kyrie, they have to buy low on someone and hope that he works out here. They kind of have not necessarily a dart throw. I don't think it's that risky. There's enough tape on him and enough talent there that I think he's going to do okay here, but they can't get by a perfect player because they can't afford a perfect player. Because if the perfect wing was available, there's 8 teams that want to win games right now that have more to offer than the Mavericks have to offer in trades. Oklahoma City is one of the best teams in the NBA, and they own every draft pick for the next 30 years. So if there's a good player out there, sorry, I just saw a nice comment there by Sterling.
Yeah. So Sterling, since the chat won't let me, go fuck yourself.
No, it's okay. Hey,
Isaac Harris might be a wet blanket. He's also a nice dude. I am not.
It's okay. Hey, it's all good. I'm not everything is for everyone. But yeah, basically he's a guy that the talent and the tools look better than the numbers. And the upsell is let's put him with Luka, let's put him with Kyrie. Let's get him here in Dallas, where they have tended to get the most out of most of the role players they've signed. You look at Derek Jones, you look at Dante Exum, you look at guys before that, Dorian Finney-Smith, even Maxi's best years. So you just kind of look at that and you think, okay, if we can get that out of undrafted guys and second rounders, what if we can get this out of a guy that was, a lottery pick or a pretty high first round pick that's young, and let's see where it goes. And again, cost control. He's got a pretty decent contract for the next 3 years, so that's also helpful.
So,
sorry, I kind of rambled there.
No, that's great. I want the rambling because one of the things that I was confused by, and this is mainly just due to the way the rest of my afternoon went, was the draft compensation. So as we know, we said that the Mavericks sent a first round draft pick, top 2 protected. I'm seeing in multiple places that the Dallas Mavericks, thank you to David Sanchez in the chat for sharing the Athletics post, but did the Mavericks get 2 first rounders back?
2 second rounders back.
I'm sorry, 2 second rounders. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, they did. It's in the official press release too.
I gotta be honest, man. So everybody who knows me kind of tends to know how I react to stuff. And I had like 30 DMs and text messages of people being like, you hate this trade because of the first round pick. My initial inclination to this pick was, God. And we're going to talk about that in a second because a first round pick is a first round pick. Getting back 2 seconds is interesting to me. I like it. I like that more than particularly because if one of them is this year, and I'm not sure what year they are, but if one of them is this year, Charlotte sucks.
Hey, they're going to suck for a while, even if it's next year. Yeah.
So that's really, those late, that's where we get Brunson. That's where you can really get some guys. And I know a lot of our fans are probably like, why do you care about drafting so much, Kirk? Because honestly, the Mavericks are pretty good at drafting. It's
been their biggest roster wins over the last 5 years have been all from the draft.
So that's sort of where I'm at. All right. So now that we like the players,
yep.
Let me ask you this. Do you think one of the phrases that's we've uttered over and over again, does this move the needle? Does it move the needle for you this year?
This year, I don't know if it changes their ceiling too much, but before everyone kills me, it's because I still thought that their ceiling was a non-playing team, like in the 5 or 6 seed range. But I think what this helps is maybe gets them closer to that. And maybe this trade this year, probably the biggest thing is it adds a little stability to their floor with their injuries and stuff like that. Like just getting these 2 guys in here, hopefully will prevent any type of collapse that we saw last season. So that's a big plus. So yeah, I don't, if they're not, the top 4 teams in the West are really good. The top 5 in the West right now are really good. So I don't know if I would favor the Mavericks. If the Mavericks are in the 6,
the top 4,
range, they're going to play one of the best teams in the league. Really,
I do not want to play the fucking Clippers.
That's not great.
I just can't handle it, and it feels like that's preordained at this point. Anyway,
but yeah, for this season, I think the biggest boon is that it's going to help the bottom from falling out.
Okay,
but also I think it's going to help. I mean, I don't know if we can go to you next, but my big thing is how this affects them going forward, and I think that's probably the big point. But I mean, I know your take is that you don't think it changes the ceiling that much at all, right?
I could be swayed. I mean, when you go into they're 6 games over 500 right now. We were worried about them going into All-Star break under 500. Yeah. So at a certain point in time, you got to say, all right, things feel good. Things are trending in the right direction. If they were to somehow sneak one out past Oklahoma City on Saturday, and then they better dang well close out the Wizards and the Spurs before All-Star break, talk about a great feeling. Now, if you win 2 of those next 3, still a really good feeling because you're still at that point, you're 7 games over 500. So this season, I just don't know. My initial kind of way back before the season started was I thought this team could be out of the play-in. That was sort of my hope. Top 6. Still don't know about that just because the way things are shaking out. The Mavericks have had really bad injury luck. They need to stay healthy. But when you watch a team like tonight that pulls through against a pretty feisty Knicks team, even though they're all hurt, they got something. I've been saying that for weeks, and I'm just so negative about the Mavericks year in and year out. So I feel like me actually saying I feel like they have something is of consequence. Now, maybe I'm just dead wrong, but it just be me being the positive one for a while is so odd. Now I talk to me about why you think this is a good future building move.
One, that they're both 25 years old.
Okay.
And very quietly, the roster is young. This is kind of a young team now. Mm-hmm. Remember, we joked about, like when Dorian was 29 or 30 and Maxi's 30 and Powell is, I think he's 30 now. And we would joke about how it was both Carlisle and Kidd and Donnie Nelson would talk like this team was just full of 22, like everyone was Luka's age. And it was like, no, it's basically just Luka and Brunson and everyone else is close to the wrong side
like
of
Jason
30.
Kidd being like, they're a young team. And we're like, no,
Yeah.
come on.
But now they kind of are. They kind of are a young team. Most of their core are, besides Kyrie and Tim Hardaway Jr., like the most important players on the team are all basically 25 or younger, with Luka, PJ, Gafford, Lively, Green, Hardy. That's a lot of nice youth there. So that's one thing, and they're all cost controlled, so it's something you can build upon, and that means it's contract. Like if they do need to move these guys later, they're all on deals that are pretty reasonable and in that mid-level range that I feel like you need. Like it's really hard to make trades when all your contracts are like tied up with 2 max guys and then like a bunch of minimum guys. Like having these mid-tier contracts, I think makes it easier to do trades in the future if they need to. Maybe these guys, that's like worst case scenario if they don't turn out the way you want them to. But also because they can still do stuff, maybe not as much stuff as we thought if they kind of held on to the pick, but they can trade if things go as according to plan and they give up the 2024 pick. They can trade 2 picks this summer.
Okay.
They still have Josh Green and they still have Jaden Hardy, who
are the Josh Green thing.
Like keeping Josh Green is a big deal. I think
big deal. Like I hate on him with just relentless fury.
But regardless of
vain, but
regardless of how we feel, it's obvious that league wide he has something in terms of
which is actually important. You hold on, you always move them later.
Right. So the fact that they still have 2 picks, they still have their 2 young players that you would consider are their best trade chips. Like they didn't lose that much in making these deals. So that's why I think it's pretty good. Like the fact that they still have the ability to move Green for an even better piece, or they don't move Green because Green looks awesome. So they still have flexibility. Like they have more flexibility than I think we originally thought. But still, there is some downsides that we can talk about like how they got to this point and who they had to move and how that kind of adds to the totality of what they gave up, with Grant Williams, because you kind of have to add in what they traded for Grant into this deal because he didn't even last a full season. So that's part of it, and I get that part of it. But it was nice to see them be aggressive in a way that still allows them to continue to be aggressive going forward. Like they are not done next summer. Like there's still
a roster spot today, right?
Also, who is presumably going to be filled by.
I want to circle back on that. I need to be a wet blanket for a minute.
Okay, but did you see what Kidd said? Because I know sometimes you don't see what Kidd.
Okay. Yeah, he made that kind
basically confirmed it.
I want to, yeah.
Okay, all right,
so we're bear with me for a second. Yeah. Okay. Future first round draft compensation, the Dallas Mavericks owe this year's 2024 pick to the Knicks, assuming the bottom doesn't fall out. The 2027 pick to the first round pick to the Charlotte Hornets. 2028 pick swap to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 2029 first round pick unprotected to the Brooklyn Nets, 2030 pick swap with the San Antonio Spurs. Now, somebody today was like, where did that 2030 pick swap come from? It came from the signing of Grant Williams. That was the thing that had to happen because it was a 3-teamer back with the Celtics and the Spurs in order to make some things happen. And I just got to tell you guys, when I think about the PJ Washington Grant Williams transaction as a whole, you're telling me that we traded for PJ Washington for a first round draft pick and a 2027 first round draft pick and a 2030 pick swap. That's the way the math works there. Am I right?
That is, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Kind of how you have to look at it.
I don't want to be a wet blanket. That sucks. That sucks.
Now, go ahead.
Tell me, okay, that's that. They're happy with it. I just need to say out loud that it sucks because draft capital does matter. And now, as we hit on earlier, the 2 second-round picks coming back from Charlotte, which was something I didn't really factor into my analysis when I tweeted that out earlier, really does that helps me a good deal, actually.
Yeah.
But you only have so many cards you can play.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah. And I don't think you're wrong.
Out there.
No, you're not wrong. The Mavericks, considering how much draft capital they've spent in the Luka era, you would think that they would have a more set roster. Like they're still trying to figure it out. So that's the downside. And the downside is you think about, I mean, not the downside with these 2 players specifically, but we were just talking in totality of what they've been doing. Their last 3 big ticket off-season moves In 2022, it was Christian Wood and JaVale McGee. 2023, it's Grant Williams. Neither of those guys lasted more than a season.
Mhm.
Wood goes, you give up a first-round pick for Wood, and he leaves out the door for nothing because he did not work. You give JaVale McGee the second biggest contract of his career at age 37 or 34 or whatever, however old he was. And he lasts 1 year, and you have to waive him, and they're going to be paying a portion of his salary for the next, I think, 4 more seasons after this one. And then you give the 2030 pick swap for Grant Williams, and he doesn't even make it to the All-Star break. And so on one hand, I appreciate that this front office does not sit on their hands compared to how maybe the previous regime did things. Because I think, like, remember 2019 free agency, that was the definition of them.
I mean, they wouldn't even admit that they did something wrong with that free agency. That's what's so incredible.
And I think that was our biggest criticism of that front office back then with Donnie leading the show, was how they weren't proactive enough, right? Like that was the thing. They just kind of had this master plan, and if it didn't work, they're like, whatever. And that's not how you do things. So the fact that they're able to admit so quickly, hey, this isn't working, let's get it out of here and try something new. That's something that not a lot of front offices do. But on the other end of the token, eventually the moves have to work. Like, you cannot keep, like, it's great that you can move on very quickly when you make a mistake.
You better work.
You can't keep making mistakes.
These two better work.
Yes.
There's not a lot of chips left to play. Now also there's something else that plays into this. Luka was just asked about it. He says management discussed both deals with him, and he readily approved of both, which Brad Townsend has a whole video of it. And like, just, there's a lot of criticism of Luka, which I find to be bullshit. But I've been trying to tell people that I don't really think Luka started to get involved until after he scored 60 points against the Knicks and looked around and was like, Jesus Christ, is anyone going to help me? I really do. I don't think until that January, because that's the first time Stein and McMahon really started talking about something. He didn't really do with the other stuff, because why should he? That's the front office's job.
That stuff, yeah.
He's now saying, like, just the visual of Luka being like, pack him up. See you later, Grant. Thanks for wearing my shoes.
That's pretty good. But yeah, so like I said, it's great that this new front office is proactive. A lot of GMs, Kirk, we've been watching the NBA for a while. Sunk cost fallacy is a real thing with a lot of these GMs, and they get trepidatious. Look at the Chicago Bulls, like the last 3 years, in terms of an organization dragging its feet and not pulling the trigger and admitting when something's not working. So it is a good quality for an organization to have. Yeah, but like we said, they got to hit. Like, these moves have to work. If PJ Washington is another Grant Williams, they don't really, there's not
much to do there,
because you keep running out of wiggle room to rectify the mistake, and eventually there's no more room left, and you're done. So it's great that they were able to move on from these, and I think that's my main takeaway from today, is how aggressive this front office is, and realizing when something's not working and trying to fix it, but also got to get it right. It's got to work.
So there's one roster spot available, and this was just a recurring. Our chat is all over this, and like, I just wouldn't have predicted this. So Spencer Dinwiddie is the free agent. Is that the deal?
He was traded today, and I don't know if he's already been waived yet, but he's going to get waived. It's the
plan, though. He's going to get waived.
Yeah, because
he's at the game. He's at
Toronto, I think.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And he's sitting two rows back behind Jason Kidd. He was looking at his phone most of the game, which was like really hilarious.
Okay.
And
he was waived.
And so there's two players that are being like heavily discussed for that roster spot for the Maverick. The other is besides Spencer Dinwiddie, the other is the other Morris twin, which no, for me, it's a hard no. And to be quite candid, I'm just going to take this position right now. No, thank you to Spencer Dinwiddie either. No, like I feel crazy. Like, they moved Spencer. They moved Spencer last year, guys, because Spencer's vibes were garbage. He was giving these really long, lengthy answers that were basically like trying to pass blame around, and then they moved his butt out of there. So if you're saying 30 games, Spencer Dinwiddie is going to bring great vibes, the great vibes in that other team were Jalen Brunson, not Spencer Dinwiddie. So if you really like him because you like him and you think he's fun for the team, I get it. I don't think the basketball thing is going to help the Mavericks that much. He is washed.
I know. That's what we said about when he was in Washington, though. So
it's true.
And then he came to Dallas and made every single 3-pointer he took.
That's true.
I don't know. Maybe they got the magic sauce here. That part is all, I get that part of it. I just didn't think hey, the first thing they need is another ball handler. But I wonder if the Exum injury stuff
is deeper than we know. That's a good point.
So I don't think they seriously consider him if they think Exum is going to be able to close the season just fine.
That's a good take.
Because otherwise, why would you? Because Exum can totally do what he's been doing this season. Sure. If not better. So
yes, with much more force.
Yeah. And I wonder if Kidd has gotten a good look at the Jaden Hardy experience while Exum's been hurt and is like, nope, I do not want to go into the playoffs with Jaden Hardy as my backup point guard. Because that's kind of what he is if Exum's hurt. Who's the first guard off the bench besides Timmy?
Know. Maybe. See, this is why Josh and I don't talk before games or before podcasts. Maybe you've convinced me. Maybe I'm all in on Woody. I'm a big vibes guy. And I'm secretly, I am pretty sure Grant Williams got packed, not just because he was bad at basketball, but because he is super annoying. So annoying. Did you ever, he tweeted out that photo where he's like, here, y'all want to caption this? And it's like, dude, just make a 3-pointer. Stop asking for attention. Make a 3-pointer.
How much do you think Luka liked the popcorn quote that he gave to the Ringer? If Luka saw it, I don't know.
Shooting negative 40% from 3. I mean,
Yeah, for the month there or whatever it
is. It's I'm sure you just again, last thing on Grant, and we can talk about him in the other show, but it's you can't put out big time leadership vibes if you suck. That's not how leadership works unless you're a 37-year vet who's been in the trenches. You don't get to do that at 23 and be like, let's go. No, don't do it. Just hit your shots, play basketball.
Yeah, that's tough. And I feel kind of bad because I felt we all liked the Grant Williams move when it happened.
It did. Absolutely.
And I think one of the things that I tried to do was temper expectations a little bit, but I don't think either of us thought it would get this bad. But it probably says something that
he'll bounce back too. I really think that he's not this bad. He just couldn't pull up and it was only getting worse.
Yeah, I think he got a little bit in his head with the bigger contract and they kind of told him, hey, you're one of our 3 you're the third starter after Luka and Kyrie, and you have to be the defensive linchpin, which he's never been before because he got to play next to a lot of great defenders in Boston. So he's not going to get to do that in Charlotte. So best of luck to him. But apparently he's from Charlotte, so maybe a little home cooking can.
Hey, hope so. I wish all these guys well.
He's nice. He's just
I'll one day I'll maybe one day I'll look fondly back on the Grant Williams experience, but I can promise nothing.
I don't think you will.
I can promise nothing.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. We got stuff there's a ton of stuff up at MavsMoneyball.com. I mean a ton of stuff. We have written this month something just pretty absurd for us in the neighborhood. Today there's 9 or 10 things. We normally only do 3 to 4 things a day. And there's just a lot of content. Head over there and check it out. Some really great stuff from the people who put in their time. They take time off work to do this sort of stuff. None of us get any money out of this. It's worth the damn. It's not worth the time we put into it. All we really do it is because we like talking about Mavs and we want to share stuff with you. So head over there and read some things. Do you have anything else before I let you go get to work?
No, I don't think so. Other than, I don't know. It's exciting. I was reminded again today that people love the trades, man.
They do.
I tweeted a pretty innocuous Daniel Gafford, just summary of what I thought. And it just, so I know Twitter doesn't matter, but the retweets, the views, people are hungry for the trade stuff, man.
You're right about that, man.
I kind of forgot about it. But, yeah.
Well, I'm going to host a secondary show. Going to put on our
you guys have fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Fun. Everybody hang out. And I'm going to post the link here in a second. I'm going to put our ridiculous rights-free music up on top of the video. I'm going to go pour another glass of water, and I'll be right back. Thanks so much for those of you listening on the audio feed. The Mavs Party show will be up on Friday afternoon, and then we'll be back Saturday as well. So everybody hang out for just a minute. I will be right back.